Hi guys, we have with us Rahul, Neha, and Dhruv from Spotify. Firstly, hi guys, welcome to the show. Firstly, it's very lovely being here in the Spotify office. It's my first time seeing the office, and it's got a really quirky vibe to it, and I think that's really nice being here. I'll quickly jump into the business side of things. I want to know from you guys how Spotify doing in India right now.
Uh, yeah, so I think we just finished our third year of operations here, and I think the response that we've received from the market has been tremendous. I think Neha will share, the kind of growths we have seen in terms of the new users which have come in. We have seen tremendous growth in the way the artists have started sort of using the platform for their own growth. Uh, Podcast is a huge story, and Dhruv will be talking about that in a huge way. So uh, I think Spotify is of course extremely audio focused, extremely focused on its music and podcasting as its businesses, and it's brought, I think, the global best practices to India as well. I think it's helped every player kind of up its game as well. So I think the journey has been phenomenal uh, till now, and we can talk about you know how artists have grown, how our music consumption has grown, how various genres have grown. We can get into some of that as well. And
Obviously, your recent numbers have been quite promising, and it's kind of surprising if you look at video streaming platforms like the Netflix story has been very it's been doing the rounds. And they've had to go through a hard time. What has Spotify done differently, especially when it comes to the Indian market, that you've been able to kind of survive?
So I think when Spotify launched in India 3 years ago, we were the eighth player to launch in the market, right? So obviously late to the party. But what we've done in these 3 years is that actually reached a leadership position, and I think one of the things that we've done correct is localization, right? And when I say localization, it's not only in the terms of communication and marketing and the way we've approached our comms strategy, but also I think two very critical things when it comes to localization is the product market fit. So when India was planned as a launch market, we sort of recognize that this product needs to be customized for the India market, and that's exactly what we did. So the India product is very different from the Spotify product elsewhere. It's called free on demand. You get to sort of stream the entire catalog free of cost. You can skip tracks. You can also make your own playlist. So it's very customized for a free and a price sensitive market. For people who wanted to sort of experience a premium product, India had a very different pricing strategy as well. So there are a lot of options for the user to upgrade to a premium product, which only exists in India, and the plans are very customized for a India market.
Your pricing remains the Indian pricing remains the lowest. I think.
Yes, of course. I mean, that's a VVP. It is lowest, but also there are things like a family pack which has an option of 6 members joining, and I mean this is totally customized for India because India has larger families, right? So that exists. We also have a product which is called Mini, a day pack or a week pack, which is like exactly what Dhruv was saying, that it's like sachet business. So India is very used to buying a sachet for today's use. So that works in India, and that's how we sort of customize the pricing. And I think the thing that I would like to cover is the entire communication and marketing strategy, which was very, very localized. So from the time when we launched in India, which is our first campaign, there's a playlist for that. We went really, really local and understood what the nuances are for that geography, for that cohort, and spoke to them in their language. All the way to the campaign that we've done now, which is Spotify on to Maza on, where we're saying we understand you, and we know that you get stuck in very crummy situations, in your daily life. We play up those crummy situations and how music can help you, sort of sail through those situations.
I think the advertising angle is very interesting for me because when I personally used to use the app, I was of course on the free free model.
Yeah.
And I just want to ask you about the design of the ads. Was the ads designed intentionally to kind of interrupt your listening and kind of push you? Do you think the Indian customers need to be pushed to kind of subscribe to a
yeah, I think I wouldn't say push, but I think everybody needs to be nudged and everybody needs to be told that this would be the experience as you upgrade. So we obviously play up the features. We also play up the plans, which are very sort of affordable, if I may, to sort of upgrade. They're not meant to interrupt, but I think it is that it's just the format is designed in such a way that you're so engaged in your streaming that the ad becomes a part of your streaming experience.
In terms of your revenue generation, how much of it is coming from in India? How much of it is coming from your ads, and how much of it is from the subscribers?
So, I mean, we usually don't give that breakup.
Okay,
and
like a percentage.
So again, the broad point is that our revenue is growing tremendously. I think this is the market opportunity in India is huge. Our growth and both of these lines of revenues are growing really rapidly for us. So, I mean, we're very clear that in India there is a huge people love their music, and people are growing used to the whole idea of podcasting. So the opportunity is massive. And there are all sorts of consumers at all levels of sort of propensity to pay. And we are here to sort of try and address as big a market. So there are some people who can get access to the content, but ads, that's our source of revenue. We serve ads. And there are some who look for the premium experience. They get additional features as a result of it. The listening experience is superior and they value that experience and they're willing to pay the premium. And hence, I think so for us, both are as critical. So it's not one versus the other for us.
Right. Do you think the market is still crowded in terms of especially when you say that the regional content is a focus? You have other players who kind of have a niche in that kind of category, right? Do you think the market is focused, or do you think India is still a zero-sum kind of market where everyone has room to grow?
See, again, I think there's a very interesting conversation on podcasting that we should.
Yeah, I think there'll be two different conversations. So maybe I'll take podcast first. Podcast is a relatively newer category. It's like about 7-8 years old in India, and what we've seen over time is that there is a tremendous growth in the number of listeners and the kind of formats that people are listening to. Earlier, we mentioned localization. I think on podcast and on content creation, that was our going in position, is that for India, we'll create local content. Like on Spotify, as you know, that all content is available, all global content is available in India as well. So we have over 3 million podcasts. But for India, we said that, look, we want to create new content. We will create it in Indian languages. So all our originals and exclusives, most of them are in Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, Bengali, and a whole bunch of others. We have this creator platform called Anchor. You're aware of that. Anchor also, we're seeing creation in about 12 to 13 Indian languages, which means podcasts are growing widely, spreading widely across India. Coming to your point on competition. So look, yes, there are several players who do podcasts and talk content in India. Our view is that, look, what we are doing collectively is just growing the market today. There is like huge amount of growth there. There is lots to be done, lots of formats to be explored, a lot of different kinds of talk content. Like audio can be like, it could be interviews, it could be just one directional, it could be instructional. So there is so much to do. I mean, it could be game shows for all you know. Right. So there is
podcast. I think even globally as a behavioral trend, it's something that's recently come up, right? In terms of a timeline, where do you see Indian consumers kind of adopting this, being aware of something like a podcast, having it played in the background and still consuming it?
So I think there is a large section of Indian consumers who are consuming, let's say, 6 hours, 8 hours plus in a week. And as we kind of grow the market, we are looking at that base growing. And Gen Z, which is one of our biggest cohorts on the platform, we see a huge amount of Gen Z come and listen to podcasts. I know a lot of my friends whose kids have started creating their own podcast. So podcast awareness is growing and like spreading very rapidly.
I think also just to add, I think to the earlier point of when we're looking at the market and the competition. So from, let's say, the music point of view as well. So 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 it's not a zero sum game like what you mentioned. Okay, that's really not what it is. If you look at the entire entertainment ecosystem, it's actually an ecosystem, and for a song to be successful, it has to do many things right. Audio streaming platform is one of the things. They need to get their marketing right. They need to get their short form video content strategy right. They need to get their video content strategy right. And I think the entire ecosystem kind of thrives together. So today when we see artists grow, our advice to artists is not necessarily to say, hey, how Spotify alone can help you win. We look at the entire ecosystem, and our conversations with them is saying, you need to do the right things across various platforms. There might be song discovery which may happen elsewhere, and you may have song consumption which may happen somewhere else. So I think we don't necessarily see other players as competition as much as saying, hey, that's an ecosystem. And we usually tend to take an artist-centric view. So, for example, we will never necessarily go out and do an exclusive with an artist. That's not something that we would tend to do, because for us, that's restricting the access that the artist may have to their fans, actually. So we'll take a slightly bigger view on the situation, saying, hey, go and do what you can across all platforms, and Spotify is here to give you additional tools. If we can help you grow, then that's what we will do for you. So hence our viewpoint on the market is sort of
it is still artist focused, and you're trying to focus on the creative side of things. When it comes to podcasts, especially, I wanted to ask you that because awareness, as we know, is quite low. So does your focus right now? Is your focus right now on telling creators that this is the best tool that we have? Anchor, as you call it, is the best tool that we have to create different kinds of podcasts. Is that going to be the first kind of milestone that you reach to get through to the creators, and then maybe the awareness will build on from there?
Yeah, so it's a classic two-sided marketplace. And for that to succeed, you have to work on the supply side first. You have to build a lot of supply and then work on the demand side. So today we are working at onboarding creators at scale. We have several programs running. Like we do workshops with creators where we kind of take them through a large 6 to 8 week training process. Like we did something with India Film Project. We did something with Winkle. Right now we have workshops in, let's say, Bengali, and Tamil and Malayalam are getting incubated. So we want to kind of bring podcast creation into anyone who wants to create a podcast, where the tools are very simple. So we use these workshops where mentors actually train you in like scripting, editing, recording, marketing and promotion, etc. So you are equipped to start your own podcasts.
Right. I just wanted to shift to the marketing side of things. I see, like if you look at the entire landscape, right? Like if you look at Netflix, I just want to draw the parallel with Netflix and Spotify. As consumers you can correct me if I'm wrong. Consumers have this perception that it is a premium product. It is a more, you would say, Uber product, right? Now, how do you kind of tweak in terms of your user experience, your marketing, your positioning, to kind of appeal to the larger section of the audience as well, and make them feel like, this is a product for Indian consumers as well?
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. I think one of the tasks that the marketing team has in hand is to ensure that, we maintain the international appeal and the aspirational value of the brand, but at the same time, not alienate anyone, right? And now Spotify is already available in 7,500 towns, but the intent is to go deeper, right? So we would want everybody to be, feeling sort of relevant for, this to come and become part of this category, right? So it needs to be very inclusive, and we basically make sure that the human insight that we play up is very local led, right? And the music that we play up is very, very localized. So through nuances, cultural nuances, and through the music that we use in our campaigns, we make sure that it's pulling in people with familiarity, but at the same time, we would make sure that as a brand we do maintain that aspirational value for the brand.
So I think, just to add on the product side of it, saying, so how do you sort of customize the product for India? So I think the first piece is the way the app is designed. So no two people have the same app. So this app has hyper localization to another level. So every person's app gets personalized to their usage. So, and we have most of the content, let's say, of most of the catalogs, most of the labels on the app. So the nature of the app is such that it will get localized to the users, given if they're listening to Bhojpuri music and that's what their major consumption is, the entire app is going to change to Bhojpuri. The entire homepage changes. If you're a Tamil listener, then your entire recommendations that you get, the playlist that will surface on the homepage, the kind of the pushes and the sort of new music discovery that may happen, lot of that is going to sort of start reflecting the local consumption patterns as well. So
is all of this based on an algorithm, or is there human intervention also happening? Is it a mix of both, or is it
So actually there are broadly 3 levels at which it happens. So one of the biggest is actually users' own creation. So I think
people creating their own playlists?
Yeah, there are over 1.5 lakh playlists being created by users on a daily basis in India. This is not global, this is India. 1.5 lakh playlists that users create themselves, and a lot of that gets shared. The second big piece is there is algorithmic recommendations. So your daily mixes, your weekly sort of new releases as they come out. So a lot of it is algorithmically led, and then there is editorial piece as well. I mean, there are language and culture experts who take a view of various languages. They look at what is working, what's not working, what is it that the consumers are looking for, what are the music trends, the way they are moving, and they curate a specific set of, let's say, playlists as well, and that drives a lot of consumption. So consumption actually is across all of this sort of spectrum, where user create their own experiences, algorithm is sort of reading the consumption patterns and then sort of mapping you, saying, okay, that's the kind of music that you like, and that starts surfacing a lot more, and suddenly you will be experiencing the app and discovering music that you would have never yourself found out. And then of course there are editors who bring their local insights by culture, by language on the app as well. So all of it works together.
I just want to ask you, anything that's planned, like any changes in the pricing model in terms of your app, UI, UX, anything major that's kind of going to take you to the next level that's planned in the coming?
Nothing that I can comment on right now, but I think but we are constantly reading the market. We are constantly sort of calibrating our approach. We are looking at what are the trends that are emerging, right? So, and these trends could be genres of music, these could be the way people are engaging with music. So I think there is a lot of that very close sort of watch that's always on, and we're always sort of trying to read some of those signals, and they will reasonably soon start reflecting in the app. And just a reminder, we are only 3 years into
Right,
India,
right.
so so we are still almost in a startup phase, and there is going to be a time when it will reflect a lot more of what's happening in India.
When I look at the business, I think one major advantage that you have in terms of social is the fact that Instagram has this option that you can share songs on Spotify, right?
Yes.
Which the other players, I think, do not have, right?
Exactly.
Now, how important is your connection with the socials? So do you think that's a major boost for you?
So
I
you want to
agree.
take that?
So
Yes.
I think, we use social both ways, right? So social for us is a platform that forms a part of the media mix as well, right? So we know a lot of people are on social, so we play up our content, through our handles that we feel should be part of the social canvas and become part of the conversations. That's how we use social media, but also, we use social media to give access to the user to be able to share his playlist and what they are listening to with their sort of fans or friends whom they are connected to, right? Because a lot of times Gen Z specifically want to broadcast what they've created on the app, or what they are listening to, or what they have discovered on the app. So I think it gives them a great tool to sort of publish that. And like you pointed out, I think the interface is seamless. You literally, it's a button away, so you need to literally one button push and it's there on Instagram or on Snapchat or on any other platform. And from that platform, it's quite an easy access to just literally one push and you're on the streaming app. Yes.
And
Yeah.
creators also use social media really well. So when they have their podcast, they put up their link on their social, and that kind of immediately pushes out to the rest of their followers. So from a creator point of view as well, look, they may be on, let's say, Insta or YouTube or Facebook, but now they also want to let their fans know that they have a podcast which is on Spotify, and they can easily share their link and grow their podcast audience.
Right.
Yeah, I think I'll just add one thing, Anita. I think, see, when it comes to marketing, one of the very important pillars for marketing is leveraging fandom. So we work very closely with the artists to sort of for new music release, or to surface music that the artist feels should reach their fans. And then we sort of do very collaborative effort where we will use the artist fandom which exists on social media to sort of surface up the right content.
I've seen some really great examples. Like if you look at Pratik Kuhad, even Obama noticing his songs and then
Yes.
it becoming global. So what is Spotify doing in India to kind of push these Indian artists globally as well?
Yeah, that's a huge opportunity for actually what Spotify brings to the table in India. So one core sort of design feature of Spotify is it's a very artist-centric app. It puts artists at the center of everything. Now what we are able to do is, of course, give them audiences which are global. So it starts with, of course, the diaspora audience of India. So while we talk of India and the subscribers of the app in India, but there are a large chunk of diaspora subscribers and users as well. And we are seeing, since Spotify has come into India, a lot of artists from India have found this audience. And on an average, you may get maybe about 20 to 30% of your audience for some artists which are coming from outside of India as well. There are certain artists where majority of their consumption is actually coming from outside of India. They're artists of Indian origin. So hence that's a huge opportunity. There are certain languages which have already made that leap. So for example, Punjabi music. So we have a flagship Punjabi playlist, let's say Punjabi 101. So Punjabi 101 playlist is a popular playlist even in Canada. And we, for example, will put out a billboard in Canada of a Punjabi 101 playlist which features Indian Punjabi artists on it. So that for us is a huge way for the local market to bring Indian artists to the local audiences in Canada. Similarly with US, similarly with UK, Southeast Asia. So we have a bunch of stories where we've done specific sort of programs which allow for collaborations of local artists and global artists. So we have a program called Spotify Singles, for example, and where we bring together artists which are, let's say, local regional artists with the global artists, and they get to sort of find new audiences outside of India. So I think, given the footprint that Spotify has and the sort of relationship that Spotify has with its users across the world, I think that's the entire diaspora audience is a huge superhighway of discovery of Indian artists as well.
You mentioning billboards, this kind of brings me to activations, right? When I look at Spotify's activation within India, I see it. Most of it has been happening in the online space. Are you looking at offline activations? Are you looking at concerts, sponsoring music events? Is that something that we can see in India?
Yeah, so I think the media mix for Indian communication strategy is quite well balanced. We do a lot of TV, right, which is offline as a traditional terminology, right? We obviously do a lot of digital because that's where the audience is. I mean, we want to reach out to a very digitized audience, and it helps to get that very quickly, and it helps sharp targeting. But we've explored outdoors as well. We've explored radio as well for getting access to a audio consumer. So pretty healthy media mix. But to answer the second part of your question, yes, Spotify globally does a lot of on-ground events, and we wouldn't shy away from doing that. Also, I think once the last 2 years haven't been kind to us to sort of bring that in, but I think as the ecosystem opens up a little bit, absolutely, I think that's somewhere that's something that Spotify sort of.
I think that would finally help the artist. Like, you're a platform for the artist,
Yes.
and you have
Yes.
such a huge fan base as well. To kind of connect them physically would mean the world to a lot of people.
I would give you one cool example of what we did with one of our podcasters.
Yeah.
We have a podcaster called the MythPat podcast. So MythPat is a YouTube gamer, and we did an original with him. So on Spotify, on his podcast, he talks about his life, his friends, etc., etc. So what we done was for him we taken one billboard in Lower Parel and put it up there. And what Myth did was he took a video of it, and he actually took his parents, his grandmother, and all to kind of see his billboard. And then they were really surprised, and it was like a big emotional moment for them. And that his family was extremely thrilled. And all this was kind of shot on a video, and then Myth put it up on his YouTube channel. And then that video picked some phenomenal traction on his YouTube channel. So it worked really well for his podcast as well as him as MythPat. And of course, I mean, Spotify was kind of instrumental in kind of getting that done. So I think we kind of do such interesting things as well.
I think the gaming community especially is a niche community which kind of adopts listening a lot more, and they do have watch-alongs and all of this. So in terms of your target, when it comes to podcasts especially, do you have target areas in terms of communities that you think that would probably adopt these faster than other?
So we do have, let's say, maybe the way to address is through certain genres. What kind of genres work best? What we've seen is that, yes, motivation and inspiration work really well. And so motivation and inspiration is there. One really big genre for us is crime and thrillers. So we have a crime show called Bhaskar Bose, and Bhaskar Bose we are taking across multiple Indian languages now. It did really well in Hindi, and we are taking across multiple languages. We have onboarded a large number of creators in Bengal who are doing horror and crime stories, and now they're doing their podcast on Spotify. So crime, thriller, horror is one big thing. We recently did a few Gen Z focused shows, like MythPat is one. Then Dear Teenage Me is another really big show focused on teenagers. So I think what we try to do is, on some of these genres, we kind of go deeper and try to build more and more content around that.
The overall positioning has always been that Spotify is a Gen Z product right now. Do you think you're missing out on some of the other audience segments while positioning yourself as Gen Z?
No, so I think we believe that music is meant for everyone, and from the very beginning we've positioned Spotify as music that has content for everyone, music and podcast that has content for everyone. So if you see our communication, we will play up Gen Z led content, but we will also have a 40, 50-year-old, 60-year-old use the app. I mean, all the sort of films that we did with Anil Kapoor, right, were showcasing Anil Kapoor using the app, right, and how he sort of maneuvers sort of everyday things that are thrown at him, either by his family or when he's sort of outside. How does he use music and the Spotify app? So it's meant for everyone, and I think from the beginning we've played up that very clearly that it's for across.
Yeah. So just to add to that as well, so when we are thinking of how Spotify engages with its audiences, we are connecting with them at many levels, right? There is the core messaging that you see, but there are other campaigns and other ways in which we engage with them as well. So for example, we did this massive campaign with Ilayaraja. Now Ilayaraja he's a legend, 40 years legacy, amazing body of work, and he connects across age groups, but particularly the millennials and older particularly. And we were actually instrumental in him coming on board and actually putting his music out on digital platforms. So Spotify actually enabled it for the first time ever. And of course, after that, he went on all other platforms. But we know that with that, we activated a large set of audiences which were beyond Gen Z. These were audiences, who have grown on his music, and there's that whole legacy. And like that, there are communities that we reach out to. So be it around festivals, be it around devotional content that we have, be it around even the sort of the legacy artists that we have. So I think there are a lot of sort of occasions and opportunities that we are always looking for to connect with a broader audience. So there is a positioning and a communication that is let's say on the mainstream, but we are very clear, as Neha said, there are communities which are consuming music, and there are user groups which are consuming music across a wide range of sort of.
So one more addition to that is on podcasts. A large number of people are listening to podcasts to learn something or for kind of just self-enhancement, and that is something we are seeing growing quite significantly now. And this is among the slightly older age groups, ones maybe typically who have finished their formal education, but who want to stay in touch with new things that are happening, right? Like there is, of course, the NFTs and cryptos that are happening, but a large chunk of people who've now come into who have started earning and into the first and second jobs, now they want to know how to save money, right? So a lot of those are listening to podcasts to kind of just get basic tips on how to start an SIP, how to buy a mutual fund, what kind of stocks to buy and stuff like that. So
these are topics that you need in depth and in-depth knowledge about.
Correct.
So that's something that if you can consume in a longer format, it kind of helps your experience. Right?
Correct.
Right.
Correct. And on audio, you can listen to several people together. You get a big choice of people who are talking about personal finance, and you can pick who to follow, and you can kind of listen to them every week. And as you rightly said, it's an in-depth discussion. You're able to absorb a lot more because audio is a medium which allows you to absorb the information more deeply.
When you position yourself as an artist, artist-centric platform, and you kind of bring people on board, but of course they're free to move to other platforms as well, right? Now, how do you retain them? Like, what are you doing to retain them? To say Spotify is the place for you to be. These are where your best audience is going to be.
Okay, so I think there are a couple of ways in which that happens. Okay, so first is when we say artist-centric, what does it really mean? So if you're an artist and you're registered on the app, you get access to certain, let's say, dashboards and certain tools and certain information about how your song is performing, which gives you a lot of insight into what kind of listeners do you have. So if you're a musician, your biggest sort of anxiety is who's listening to me, or understanding who your audience is, right? So I think Spotify has brought that to the artist community, the transparency with which we share that information, and that makes artists sort of build a relationship with our platform. And when they do that, for them, this becomes their sort of platform of choice. So when they are going to release a new music, for them, it's very important that Spotify is a critical platform for them where they're releasing it, and they talk about that on their own sort of social media. So, and that's where the fans are, and the fans hence they come onto the platform. So I think there is this whole this whole relationship that we have built with the artists and the artists which they have with their fans, which ensures that the listeners kind of keep constantly discovering that music and consuming that music on Spotify. So I think that's really how this kind of space works for us.
Right.
And the second piece is, as I said, the more you listen to the app, the more the app
It's going to
kind of recommends you better. So, and we have this lovely program called Wrapped at the end of the year, and
Yes.
when that happens, it's a huge sort of reflection of to every consumer of what is it that you have heard, and it kind of it's a big conversation point for a
Right.
lot of people, and that's a result of all of these data points which we understand of the consumer and which the app understands of the consumer and gives it back to them. So it's I think a lot of these things which
Right.
we do right. I think
For me, I found the app very user friendly,
Intuitive and-
intuitive and user friendly, and something I wanted to be on. So when it actually launched in India, I was very excited. Right now, since I've been using it for a while, it does show me, like you said, it does show me better recommendations. It gives me these playlists that I can listen to. I explore genres that I probably haven't even heard before. But how do you kind of give that same experience to a new user? Because new users are on other apps. Just from a business perspective as well, your telecom providers are bundling their packaging with other apps. So they're getting it when they get their phones or when they subscribe to a package. How do you kind of appeal to those users as well?
so. Yeah, I think that's always a challenge, because we are not we've been we are in a market where some of our competition has been there for a long time already. So that's one big part of the challenge. But I think what we have done specifically for India is we kind of recognize that when a user is coming in, and India is a very unique market from a music point of view from the rest of the world. Okay, there is this whole concept of film music, and film music dominates, and a lot of music is visual in nature. A lot of music is you love it because of the actor who was in it rather than the guy who's singing it. So there are certain very specific quirks of from a global point of view. Of course, for India, that's very normal and that's how it is. So I think we've recognized that. We recognize that India it's not a market where there's just one language. There are so many languages. A person who consumes Tamil probably does not consume as much of Punjabi music. Like, it almost does not consume. So we have to recognize who the consumer is and then accordingly design the initial sort of experiences for that consumer. So I think for India, when we launched in India, the way we made the experience, the onboarding experience in India is very, very specific. So you actually choose the language, you actually choose a set of artists, and that kind of starts building the first set of experiences for the user. And again, as you use it more and more, it kind of keeps fine tuning it till we've got you locked
And
in.
then there are the playlists.
And of
the
course.
playlists also play
Yeah,
a
of
big
course.
part in curating music to
Correct.
a new listener.
Yeah. I think we also, just to add to that, one, of course, like, Rahul said, that it's the onboarding process, which I think the other users don't have, other players don't have. Our onboarding at least ensures that the homepage looks, familiar to you. You will not have alien sort of content on the homepage. But I think the other thing that we're doing, because we don't have a telco sort of partner to ride on, is that we tie up with OEMs, right? So we have partnership with a lot of OEM players like a Vivo or a Samsung, where we preload the product, and that kind of helps us give at least a similar experience, because when you kickstart your new phone, you already have a preloaded or a pre-installed app on the phone, so that helps.
From a global perspective, how important is the India market? What's the communication that you receive in terms of how important the India market is? Is it one of the most, or is it the most important?
So I think India, I think very proudly we call this out, that in just 3 years, India has become one of the most important markets, at least in the Spotify world. We are among the top 5 when it comes to where India stands on the Spotify map. Also, India is playing a very important role in understanding how to tackle an emerging market. So a lot of things that we are doing in India now whether it's the media mix or the way we are managing communication, the free on demand specific product that we have, the pricing, that we have for our premium product, which is Mini. A lot of those are India first, and they are literally designing the playbook for the emerging markets, for in the Spotify ecosystem. So
I think that's been very interesting for me as well personally to follow, because when you look at the other media companies, their strategy they haven't picked up the Indian strategy really well, and Spotify has actually managed to do that. So when setting out, was that your intention that when we're launching, we will launch with an Indian specific, like we'll understand the Indian consumers' behavior and then
absolutely.
Absolutely.
I think like I said, I mean, the reason why we are late to the party is that we were doing a lot of homework, and there was a lot of planning to make sure that everything from a product market fit to the way we will land our communication will be absolutely customized and designed for the Indian user.
And there is so much to learn from people who have entered India before, the multinationals. And they've all figured, some quickly, some a bit later, that if you want to succeed in India, you have to kind of play by the rules of the Indian consumer. Because Indian consumer is very unique. It requires a little bit of understanding of the consumer. But once you know her, then kind of she stays with you.
And our efforts in localization are pretty intense. So today, for example, our fastest growing language may well be Malayalam and Tamil, and our growth and our success in Punjabi is almost sort of at a level where we think we are probably the market leaders in certain languages. So I think that effort that you have put in trying to really connect with India at a local level, be the local app for the local consumer, and actually get down to a level of understanding what are the nuances. I think there's a lot of work which is going into that, and
I think it might be quite early to ask you your next 5-year plan, because considering that you've only been here for 3 years, I would ask, what's your 2-year plan? Where do you think Spotify is going to be in the next 2 years?
I can talk from a marketing perspective. See, we've always tried to localize, and currently we're available in about 7,000 towns, right? The intent now is to keep focusing to go deeper. We will focus more and more on the tier 2, tier 3 towns, whether it's recognizing what kind of music they play and what are the local nuances. So the intent will be to go deeper and talk to the 650 million digitized audience and get more and more from there. That's on communication. Also, from a product pricing standpoint, I think the endeavor will be to make sure that we offer pricing that is more suitable as we go deeper. The plans will be more and more suitable, and of course the payment methodology, right, whether it's moving from recurring now to prepaid, or making sure that the Paytms and the UPIs are all sort of integrated, will be an effort that we will make sure is to the team.
Is in place.
Yes.
yeah, and you'll also see a lot of creator-led sort of creator economy-led initiatives as well. So we are here to sort of partner in that in a huge way, be it the music artists, be it the podcasters. So I think there is going to be this whole. So it's in our DNA to say, how do you enable artists and creators to earn off their art, and how do you connect them to their fans? I think, and that's the broader direction and vision in which we go. So a lot of initiatives are also going to come out of that sort of thinking. So we'll see how some of those things
Super
evolve.
excited to see what's in store. It was lovely chatting with you guys.
Thank
Pleasure.
you.
Great. Thank you. Thanks a lot.